Riot Forge, the publisher label of Riot Games, has released the Ruined King trailer, but there is a lot of information about the story, the places, and the characters that you might not know. Whether you are new to the League of Legends universe or a player focused on the game and not the lore, with this quick video we will go through everything you need to know to be ready to fight the Ruined King early next year. The world we live in is called Runeterra, and this is the map. Here we can see Bilgewater, from where our champions will set up, and here the Shadow Isles, where the Ruined King resides. However, this is not where the story starts. Actually, it's not even in this map. This is what's known of Runeterra, and it's said that it's only 1/6 of the whole size of the planet. This story starts in a faraway kingdom whose name or place we don't know. This kingdom was prosperous, and the king lived happily with loyal citizens, his trustworthy general and niece Kalista, his great army to protect the land, led by Commander Hecarim, and his beloved soulmate, the Queen. However, he was also hated by his numerous enemies, and when an assassin tried to kill him with a poison blade, Kalista deflected it, which unfortunately bounced into the arm of his wife, fatally poisoning her. As the Queen's illness became increasingly severe and no local healers could cure her, the king sent Kalista on an expedition to a faraway island where eternal life could be achieved, while Hecarim would stay with him and protect them both. The island was shrouded in a protective pale mist, impending unwanted dockings, but the Guardian saw purity in Kalista's resolve and let her in. Helia, capital city of the Blessed Isles, was wealthy and lustrous, inhabited by cultured citizens, full of fertile lands and shaped by intricate architecture. The masters of the city told her about the waters of life, capable of healing any disease but unable to revive the dead, and agreed to welcome the queen and heal her, giving Kalista a talisman with which she could dispel the pale mist by herself when she came back with her. But as hopeful as the situation was on Kalista's part, the king was maddening as he saw the love of his life gradually giving in to the poison, and as paranoia consumed him, he sent Hecarim on bloodthirsty missions to appease civil unrests that were never there. It was not long until the queen gave her last breath, and with it, the last thread of the king's sanity snapped away. When Kalista came back to the kingdom, she found the terrible state into which it had degraded while she was away, and finding the queen already dead meant the quest for her cure had already ended. However, the king, insane from grief and further fueled by Hecarim's warthirst, was too hopeless to forsake hope, and contrary to Kalista's wishes, they embarked once again to the Blessed Isles with the corpse of the queen. Once they arrived at the capital city, the Guardians of Helia welcomed the king with their condolences and the explanation that the waters of life could not undo death, words that were met with bloodshed from Hecarim's army, and when Kalista tried to stop them, she found her chest pierced by their spears a dozen of times. With the situation turned into a chaotic bloodbath, the king accesses the waters of life and submerged the queen's rotted corpse into the waters. As the queen's corpse fused with the waters, the veil between life and death also dissolved, unleashing an influx of curses, pain and destruction in form of a dark magical force that shattered every part of the Blessed Isles, as death itself snatched the life away from everything on its path. This was called the Ruination. It happened around 1000 years ago and marked the end of the Blessed Isles. Who would believe that something as beautiful and pure as love could cause a cataclysm of such magnitude? The Shadow Isles were completely changed, as the protective pale mist now was powered by the shattered soul of everyone present in the Ruination, fusing them all together into the same identity, forfeiting their individuality to form part of an unrelenting force, draining the life and consuming everything it touched, which would then be called the Black Mist. Only those with the strongest wills resisted the transformation into Black Mist and retained individuality, such as Kalista and Hecarim, but instead they were transformed into gruesome horrors, reflection of their past selves that still haunt the living. Bilgewater is the main settlement of the Blue Flame Isles, an archipelago famed for being a boiling pot of pirates, trade, deals, crime, gambling, plundering, wealth, sea monsters, bounty hunting, and, in general, opportunities for everyone that can be up to the situation. The geography of these isles is sheer, creating interesting architectural patterns in order to turn cliffs into inhabitable streets. Even though there is no formal government in the city, there used to be a captain that everyone feared and made everyone follow his laws, the River King Gangplank. However, since Misfortune ended his tyranny, the city lost control and tens of captains war for control, something she could only stop by negotiating a shaky truce between crews that no one knows for how long will it last. The Shadow Isles, as we have seen before, is nothing more than an echo of what the Blessed Isles once were. Now, it's a cursed place where death reigns, and the few who still fight for life are met with grim hopelessness, and those who dare to enter are consumed by spectral horrors, impatient to quench their thirst for life. One of the most interesting spots is the lair of Bailmo, an ancient spider god from unknown origins who made the dark catacombs beneath Helia its new home. Additionally, the horrors of the Black Mist are not restricted to the Shadow Isles, as it periodically sets sail, consuming anything on its path, whether it's a lonely ship, a big fleet, or a whole island. However, the most central part of the Shadow Isles has been kept under wraps for years. Where is the Ruined King? What kind of control does he have over the Black Mist and the rest of the Shadow Isles? And what is his goal? It won't be long until we discover it. Sarah Fortune, also known as Misfortune, is the captain of the Siren, the ruling crew of Bilgewater. She was only a kid when her family was murdered by Gangplank, the feared River King of Bilgewater. Growing with the constant desire for vengeance in her heart, she amassed wealth by accepting commissions, taking down wanted criminals and reaping the bounties, until she could establish her own crew and surround herself with allies. After years of plotting, she overtook Gangplank during the events of Burning Tides, but nothing is set in stone in Bilgewater, and the lack of a ruler might be worse than having a tyrant one. Having a lot to prove, Misfortune fights day by day to impose her rule on this lawless city. Her skill with shock and awe, the guns that her mother crafted, is only matched by her intelligence and her wit, and once she warms up, she can fire barrages of bullets with no end. As per her motivations, Bilgewater is the most frequently attacked place by the Black Mist, given it's the closest settlement to the Shadow Isles, so bringing an end to the malevolent forces of the Ruined King could reward her with the never-ending support of Bilgewater, and ensure her place as the true pirate queen of the city. Illaoi is the high priestess of the faith of Nagakiboros, the religious belief in Nagakiboros, a god that embodies the spirit of all humans and the flow of the universe, which preaches that chasing your dreams and getting what your heart desires is the only true way of life. In her youth, she would date Gangplank, but when she had to choose between her love and her faith, she chose the god over the man. In present days, she doubts about the capacity of Misfortune to rule Bilgewater, believing that only Gangplank could make sense of the utter chaos and delinquency that exists in Bilgewater, but is still willing to support her. Illaoi doesn't only fight with her pure muscle, but she is also capable of summoning Nagakiboros into the battle with her artifact, the Eye of God, commanding tentacles to slam against enemies and even tearing the spirit out of people to strike it directly. Given the nature of her religion, she is especially resentful against the undead, and the power of Nagakiboros is unmatched against them. She also has clear motives to join the fight, as cleansing the world from the stagnated souls is her duty as priestess. Braum is a half-man, half-legend from the icy realms of Freljord, way up north. He's known not only for being the strongest man of the Freljord, but also for having the warmest heart. When he's not saving trapped children from dangerous places or protecting families from avalanches and wild beasts, he can be found helping Ash, leader of the Avarosans, with their shared dream of uniting Freljord under one banner and bringing everlasting peace. Having him on the team will mean that no one is left behind. His strength is not his only asset, as he also carries an unbreakable shield crafted by the demigod of the Forge, which is actually a door. We don't know what brings him to Bilgewater, but the mere situation of having to protect anyone from evil forces could be enough to count Bram in. Yasuo hails from the continent of Ionia, land of untapped magic and spiritual way of life. Yasuo began to learn the way of the sword with his inseparable older brother Yone, but his eagerness to fight and disobedience cost the life both of his master and his brother. After exiling with his hands stained with blood and guilt, he returned to where everything began, only to find out that the true killer of the master was already found, and his brother, now fighting for life consumed by demonic forces, would also choose not to blame nor reclaim vengeance from him. Yasuo mastered both the blade and the advanced wind techniques that his master taught, allowing him to quickly dash through the battlefield, repel enemy attacks, and swiftly strike foes. Both the deaths of his master and his brother were forgiven by others, but not by himself, which made Yasuo not comfortable in Ionia anymore. He has sailed to Bilgewater with the goal of deciding his own fate there, but it seems he has something on his mind that we don't know yet. Ahri also comes from Ionia, although she's not a human but a Vastaya, an ancient race of beings that share both human and animal features and have deep attunement to magic. However, she has no memories of her past, nor her tribe, nor her family. She feeds on life essence, and her magic calling has to do with control of emotions, being able to charm and calm her victims down while draining their vitality away. The flavor of these lives was given by the memories and emotions the human experienced, making Ahri feel both the pain and the pleasure of their lifetimes. Taking those lives hurts her, but she cannot help but to crave more and more life essence. Ahri is the sorcerer of the team, and even though her signature power is the ability to control emotions and to relieve memories from others, she is also capable of purely offensive magic, being able of commanding foxfires and draining the life from her enemies. She set off to Bilgewater along Yasuo, probably in search of hints that could allow her to track her origins and her lost tribe. Pyke was once the best harpooner of Bilgewater, harvesting fresh internal organs from still-alive sea monsters. However, when he tried to harvest the most sought beast, the mythical Jolfish, the job went awry and he ended up being eaten by the beast. But his most reckless job wasn't his last one, as he was resurrected in the depths of the ocean by mysterious forces that granted him supernatural powers, and twisted his mind into a single goal: revenge. He got a list with the names of captains and crewmates linked to the Blood Harbor, the slaughtering district in which his job started. However, every day there are more names, and he doesn't realize that his motivations are not dictated by his own will, but by the forces of the abyss. His unparalleled skill with the harpoon and his newfound supernatural powers allows him to stalk enemies and set them up to crush them. Additionally, he's technically undead, so he might interact with other undead enemies from the Shadow Isles in interesting ways. But what brings him to fight along these other 5 champions? And did he make the choice to join them, or is it once again the Abyss puppeteering him? This might be the most difficult question to answer out of them all. Now that we have all the background information we needed to get ready for the final showdown against the Ruined King, I want to hear from you. Which champion from the roster do you want to play the most? And what cool interaction do you want to see in the game? This was my first video addressing both the Ruined King game and lore and narrative in general, so if you want further information about any aspect we talked about in this video or more lore content in general, tell me in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more, and share it with your friends. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope to see you in the next one. See ya!